Well, tonight we have a new update on that month-long manhunt in Tennessee. Suspected serial rapist Sean Williams has been spotted in nearby North Carolina. The FBI says that Williams was seen yesterday at a shopping center in the town of Sylva in the western part of the state. I want to bring in NewsNation's national security contributor, former CIA officer and FBI special agent, Tracy Walder. Tracy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Natasha.
So, Tracy, we have learned from a NewsNation source that the suspected serial rapist's daughter works at that shopping center. He was apparently seen buying glasses and candy. I want to get your first thoughts and your reaction to this piece of information.
Well, when I heard that piece of information, it really became clear to me why he hadn't gone as far as I had thought he could have gone in a month's time. Because if you think about it, really, this is only about a 3.5 hour drive or even a 3 day walk if he was on foot, if we really want to think about that. And so that explains to me why he stayed relatively close to the point of his escape, which most escapees don't do that. They want to put distance between themselves and the scene of the crime. And so that really helped kind of anchor that idea as to why he hadn't gone far.
Is this a potential huge source of information for investigators now? Can his daughter be compelled to help in this investigation?
I would imagine that they're compelling her right now to help in this investigation. It's hard to know if he went there to, seek her out and she didn't know that he was coming. I don't know what the relationship is like between the two of them. So this may be a situation in which she wants to help, or this could be a situation in which she's not wanting to. But because he is a fugitive, they will absolutely compel her to help.
Could she face charges for helping her dad?
It depends. If she was knowingly helping her dad, absolutely, you're aiding a fugitive in their escape. And if that's the case, a warrant will be issued. She will be arrested, and she'll be tried for that. If she didn't know, then obviously not. Then she'll just be assisting in this investigation.
This sighting was in broad daylight, like 11:30 in the morning. Is that unusual? Does it show a level of brazenness?
Again, knowing that his daughter was in this shopping center really sheds a lot of light on this, because typically when we see escapees, they are moving under the cover of darkness. That's when a lot of them are caught, because that's when they're moving. They're using that darkness as concealment. And so really that's surprising here that this would have happened at 11:30, when I would imagine it's a pretty highly trafficked area at that time. Another thing that concerns me, and I want to know more about what he was doing there is a gun and a pawn shop in this strip mall as well.
And Tracy, when we talk about brazenness, I just want to point this out again. This is not his first escape attempt. He was moved to a higher security facility after his first attempt, and yet he was able, the jailer says, to use a paperclip to slip out of his handcuffs. He broke the back window of the transport van, apparently without anyone noticing. Why weren't there extra layers of security or additional restraints considering his history?
That's the million-dollar question here. And just in looking more and more at this case, it seems like there was perhaps some mishandling that was going on here, even in terms of investigating the sexual assaults and rapes that he was ultimately convicted of. It seems that there's been mishandling there. And so I think there was just this complete lack of judgment in regards to how he should be handled. He probably shouldn't have even been transported, and not even transported by a private company, which is how he was. It should have been done by the sheriff. And he shouldn't have been in a van, and he should have been restrained differently. And so this is extremely problematic.
Do you feel that law enforcement is getting significantly closer with this latest sighting? Is this a breakthrough?
I hope that it's a breakthrough. I would assume that law enforcement probably thought that he had gotten a lot farther. What it seems like they're going to look at now is probably the National Forest area, as well as the main road that's near that shopping center, because clearly he's making camp and he's staying in one place for quite some period of time. And so that will aid them in this investigation.
Okay. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.